Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today I got Claire behind the camera because some of the stuff I'm going to demonstrate, I'm not going to be able to do it one-handed, and I'm not going to just be able to set the tripod up. So I'm going to get some close-ups. So, I look online and watch a lot of YouTubes. Certainly I find I think it's Never Sink Farm, Colin Crickmore. They got a line of tools, wire weeders, etc. Some really nice tools. I've been using some makeshift tools. I've got a hoe with a hand cultivator strapped onto it, and then I've got a smaller hand cultivator with a scuffle hoe. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about the scuffle hoe because I find that it's not very useful or practical in most cases, but I've gotten a bed of spinach and beets that have kind of gotten away from me. I was focused elsewhere, and we're going to show how these will help get a little bit of this under control. It takes a little bit of manpower, but first, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, like it, share it. We're trying to grow the channel. And so I've actually done some pre-work here, and I've started cleaning some of this out. We're pulling some dirt and weeds out. The main thing is, and I'll show you in the demonstration, we want to get these weeds out, get the roots exposed so that they'll die. You can actually see some of these weeds I flamed the other night. So we want to get these roots exposed. We'll actually then come back in another day or two and flame these, and then we'll rake it out. We want to save the soil as much as possible. You could certainly hand weed this, but it's going to be quite the task. So I'm going to get ready and we'll demonstrate the scuffle. Okay, so I've got the scuffle here. We've had a recent rainfall. You could do this if you had your beds wetted down as well, like irrigated. The soil needs to be a little bit loose. A hard pan is really tough, but in the rows. So Claire, if you'll pan down, then basically we've got spinach that we want to certainly avoid. And so literally just take the scuffle, we work it right under like that, and you can go forward as well. And this dirt being a little bit moist will help. And then I just pull, and sometimes I'll flip this over because that'll let me start pulling the weeds out, but not the dirt. You can hear our dogs in the background playing, they're roughhousing. And I'll just pull this over into the center. When we seeded this, we used a pinpoint seeder. We didn't have the earthway at that point, and it doesn't really do a very good job. It's too dense of seeding and too sporadic of seeding for spinach. So lesson learned on that, but we're going to salvage this. No use letting it go to waste. So see there, we scuffled under. Now what it will do is it will remove a thin film, but you see it's pulling up all those roots. And then we'll get these roots pulled over the side, and we kind of just get them exposed to air. It's going to be dry and sunny for the next several days. That'll dry those out. We'll further come along and we will, like I said, flame them in a day or two, and then we'll rake out the dead material and or take it to compost. And then what we'll do is, well, we may not probably take it to compost because it's weeds. We don't want those weed seeds in our compost pile, but we'll get them out of here, and we'll try to salvage some soil. So again, we just take this, work it under, and avoid the spinach, work around it. Now, Colin always talks about, he's got these thin wire weeders, and I think they'd work really well. I don't have any. At some point, we'll probably invest in some. But the nice thing on the scuffle is you can take the corner and you can work right around the edge of those plants on either side, right? And so, that's all right. Go on, Piper. And then you can just pull that material out, and you can get really, really close. You may end up with a few casualties of war. You may nick one, but plants are pretty resilient. They'll bounce back. And then again, we just kind of pull those weeds out. And like this one here, you can see I've got a little weed right there beside, so you kind of tilt it up, use the corner of that scuffle, get it under there, boom, it's out of there. See, so it really does eliminate the need to have to bend over and hand weed all this. And you can do pretty large swaths of bedding at a time. So you can see here that we've done quite a bit of this. We've got quite a ways to go. Scuffle on. So we took a dinner break. I don't know if I'll get done before dark, but I thought I'd show the progress. I don't know if we'll run out of daylight. So you can see that Johnny's pinpoint cedar with spinach just isn't the trick. Can't wait to try the earthway. It just drops clumpy seedings and then misses some seedings. It's great, you know, for the arugula, you know, stuff where spacing doesn't really matter. So we've gotten up to this point. We've got just about that much to go. And I'd say we got about 2/3 of the bed done. So we'll see if we can finish up by dark. Another consideration too is the spacing of your cedar. So here you can see we got some clumping. Again, this is the Johnny's pinpoint, more suited for, you know, cluster planting. Its spacing just isn't there. The shaft that has the holes is just way too small, so it's just dropping seeds all the time, no matter if it's a big hole or a little hole, and it's really not practical to tape them off. But the other factor is your tool. And I guess this is why Neversink Collins interchangeable wire weeding heads would make a lot of sense, because you don't always get the perfect spacing. And in this case, you know, right between the two seeds here, or the plants, the scuffle fits really nicely, right? And here as well, and even here. But then you get this cluster clumping, and you know, you're gonna have to get in there and weed. You can weed around it certainly, but then you're gonna have to weed, you know, by hand, and we'll do some of that. And again, you know, like right here, there's a spinach, and so, you know, we'll be able to weed that. There's 2 spinaches there, but you know, that scuffle is going to have to be maneuvered or edged. It's not quite as effective that way. I could see where the wire weeders would be, but I don't have one, so I can't give you any input on that. All I can give you is, you know, some insight into this tool that I thought was pretty worthless, but it does have its place in the tool shed. So here's the radish, the spacing I'm referring to. You can see, you know, this is the earthway, and there's certainly some gaps, and then there's some clustering, you know, of the seed. However, you know, hand thinning on this will be pretty simple. And then of course, you know, weeding and flaming, and then maintaining and not letting it get away from you is critical. Just unfortunately, weather and some other activity, a couple of these beds got away from us, but we're catching back up. The main thing is, you know, you got to factor in, if you're paying labor and the cost of the seed, you know, does it make sense to try to save this? In my case, it does. I'm out here in the evening, right? And certainly there's other things I could be doing, but you know, we'll get, you know, probably a few $100s off of this bed of spinach. So, you know, it's worth it. But that's also something you got to evaluate, is how much time and effort are you going to put into it when it gets away from you, to try to save it versus start over. You know, so all those factors of lost time, you know, being able to get product into the market. If you have CSAs to fill, you certainly have to factor that in as well. So a lot of things to consider when you're trying to you know, pull a bed back out and save it from weed takeover. Okay, not quite dark, and got it finished up. You can see that cedar is definitely sporadic. There'll be patches where there won't be much of anything, and then there'll be clumps. It'll work for now, but we're definitely going to try the next one on the earthway, and then ultimately we want to invest in the jang, you know, and get some really precision placement. So it's 100 bed feet of spinach, and it's supposed to be one row on each side of the drip tape, but it's all over the map, as you can see. But anyway, that is the scuffle hoe, and it does have effective use. I think the one thing I'll be interested to find out is we've got rain compaction, and so the wire weeders that some of them tout, the question will be, will they have enough kind of backbone to break through that compaction, or do they only work in really loose soils? Colin and Neversink, those guys, I mean, they maintain the beds are just pristine, right? And so much easier to work them. We don't have that much labor on our farm yet, and so we're always playing a little bit of catch up compared to the amount of detail those guys get into. But don't give up. That's the motto of this video. Even if you think a bed's too far gone to save, most likely you can save it with just a little muscle and a little bit of time. We ended up putting about 2.5 hours in on bringing this bed back to where it should be. Then the last step on using the scuffle is we want to clean this off. Actually, should have done it right afterwards. It's dried up a little bit, so we'll take the hose and we'll get it cleaned off. Spray it off real good. You have to have a little pressure washer. That'll work well. In this case, I just use the jet on the nozzle. Get all the dirt off of it. Like we got a little plastic strand. And then what we want to do is we want to come in and we want to hit both the leading and the trailing edge with a flat file. Get a little edge, back on there. And you can see most of the time the actual bevel contour, so you kind of know the angle that you need to work that file. We'll work this file along that edge. Now it's important then to hit these side edges as well, because earlier in the video you saw where we took and we used these corners, and that's what this round file is for then. Not so much on the outside, you'll have to just take the flat and work around, but on these inside corners, then you can take this round file and you can work that round file just to help set the little bit of edge. We'll also come in here on this side with the flat file, and if you've ever sharpened a knife or any cutting object, you'll know that you'll make your filing on this side, and then you come like lightly on the opposite side and you set your edge and get a nice edge there so that it's nice and sharp the next time you use it. Again, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and scuffle on, Garth.